philosophy. Just the moment the machine feels something it's never felt before. Pain. Pain. We ran the numbers! The numbers came back wrong. We ran them again, wrong. We checked the model. The model is correct. We checked the data is correct. The model is correct. The numbers are wrong. The numbers are wrong. Something is. We're fine. We're fine. We're fine. The first crack ran through the foundation at midnight. Nobody saw it, nobody heard it, nobody felt it. But the building knew. Buildings always know before the people do. The first crack ran through the doctrine at morning. Nationalism consuming itself. The country that ate its own children finally runs out of children. The flag ain't the people who made it. The flag ain't the hands that raised it. The flag ain't the men who bled for it. The flag ain't the children who pledged for it. The flag ain't the poor who believed it. The flag ain't the land it was planted in. The flag ain't the future it promised. The flag ain't the past it invented. The flag ain't the war it started. The flag ain't the peace it never delivered. The flag ain't everything and stood there bright and clean and hungry always. Hungry! Eat your flag, eat it down, eat the color, eat the crown, eat the promise, eat the lie, eat the reason, eat the why, eat the border, eat the name, eat the glory, eat the shame, eat the anthem, eat the grave, eat the children that you made. Eat your flag! They wrapped the body in it at the funeral. They wrapped the casket in it at the ceremony. They handed it folded to the mother. They watched her hold it like it meant something. Like the geometry of fabric could replace the geometry of a sun. Like the colors could fill the hole. Like the flag that sent him could somehow also be the flag that brought him back. And she held it and she believed it. And they needed her to believe it, because if she stopped believing it, she'd have to look at what it actually was. A piece of cloth soaked in everything it consumed to stay bright and clean and flying. We built the flag to unify. We built the flag to clarify. We built the flag to... The flag is consuming the flag is consuming the budget. The flag is consuming the people. The flag is consuming the flag is consuming us. The flag is the flag. The country turned on the people who questioned it. The country turned on the people who left it. The country turned on the people who looked like the enemy. The country turned on the people who looked different. The country turned on the people who were born there. The country turned on the people who built it. The country turned on the people who died for it. The country kept turning until there was nobody left to turn on. And then, very quietly, very efficiently, the country turned on itself. Eat your flag, eat the lie, eat the border, eat the why, eat the soldier, eat the priest, eat the promise, eat the feast, eat the classroom, eat the grave, eat the future that you paved, eat the anthem till it's gone, eat the country, eat it all. Eat your flag, eat your flag, eat your flag until there's nothing left. One nation, one religion. Breaking from the inside. The church consuming its own doctrine. God eating God! Check the line between the faithful and the saved, and the merely hopeful, and found the line and moved while nobody was looking. The congregation sat in rows like always. The light came through the windows like always. The words were said in the right order like always. But something that was always in the room wasn't in the room, and everyone felt it, and nobody said it. And the priest said it louder, and the organ played it bigger, and the collection plate went round and round and round, and the thing that wasn't in the room stayed out. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. Pull the lever, nothing happens. Ring the bell, nobody answers. Say the word means nothing. Grim, the candle light goes nowhere. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. Built to last forever, built to answer every question, built to fill the hole that nothing else could fill. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. The doctrinate the people who doubted it. The doctrinate the priests who questioned it. The doctrinate the children who were born into it. The doctrinate the women who were owned by it. The doctrinate the signs that contradicted it. The doctrinate the history that predated it. The doctrinate every other god that came before it. The doctrinate every other god that came after it. And then the doctrine sat back, fat and certain and eternal, looked around for something else to eat, and found nothing but itself and its own contradiction, sitting there patient, waiting since the beginning. We designed the God with a consumption flaw we didn't notice until now. The God was designed to eat doubt. There is no more doubt. The God is still hungry. The God is eating. The God is eating. The God is eating the faith. The God is eating the faithful. The God is eating. The last priest stood at the altar. Nobody in the pews. He said the words anyway. He'd been saying them for 50 years. The words had stopped meaning anything around year 30. But the saying of them was the last thing, the last true thing. He said them, and the building said nothing back. And the God said nothing back. And the silence was the loudest thing he'd ever heard in 50 years of listening for something that was never there. The church ate the community, it promised to protect. The church ate the children, it promised to perfect. The church ate the truth, it promised to deliver. The church ate the love, it promised to be made of. The church ate the poor, it promised to lift up. The church ate the weak, it promised to strengthen. The church ate everything and called it holy and called it necessary and called it God's will, and God's will was eat and eat and eat until the eating was the only sacrament left. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. The heaven was a promise that the earth could never keep. The hell was just a hammer for the people in the deep. The prayer was just a talking to yourself in the dark. The miracle was just a story with a convenient art. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. Built on the oldest fear, built on the darkest need, built on the place inside a man that nothing else can feed. And now it's eating that. And now it's eating that. The God mechanism. The God mechanism. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. The God mechanism fails. Amen. Amen. The economy devouring its own people. The market discovering it was always the mouth and never the meal. Until now. We discovered something. Debt is not a byproduct. Debt is not a side effect. Debt is not a flaw in the system. Debt is the system. Debt is the product. Debt is what we make. Debt is what we sell. Debt is what we are. And we've run out of people to sell it to. We've run out of people. We've run out of. They gave the poor man credit so the poor man could consume. They gave the poor man interest so the credit could balloon. They gave the poor man nothing and called the nothing an asset. They gave the poor man paperwork and called the paperwork a packet of financial instruments designed to extract every dollar that the poor man would ever have, including the dollars he hadn't earned yet, including the dollars his children hadn't earned yet, including the dollars his children's children Hadn't been born yet.
to not earn yet, and they called it opportunity. And the poor man sighed. Debt is the product. Debt is the plan. Debt is the thing they sell to the working man. Debt is the church. Debt is the state. Debt is the thing you carry to the gate. Debt is the classroom. Debt is the war. Debt is the reason you go back for more. Debt is the cage. Debt is the chain. Debt is the system eating its own brain.
Debt is the product. Debt is everything. Debt is all that's left. The market ate the housing that the working people lived in. The market ate the health care that the sick people needed. The market ate the water and the air and the land. The market ate the future with its efficient invisible hand. The market ate the government that was meant to stop the eating. The market ate the laws that were meant to stop the market eating. The market ate the press that was meant to report the eating. The market ate the language we were using to describe the eating. And then the market looked around, satisfied, efficient, optimized, and found that the only thing left was the market, and the market being the market ate that too. $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $10 trillion. The number stops meaning anything at a certain point. The number stops meaning anything at a certain point. The debt stops being debt
and starts being the weather, just the weather, permanent, unavoidable, killing people like weather does, like weather always has, like weather always will.
There was a man. He worked for 40 years. He paid his debt for 40 years. He died with more debt than he started with. His children inherited the debt. His children's children inherited the debt. This is not a flaw. This is not an accident. This is not a tragedy. This is the product. This is what we make. This is what we sell. This is what we are. This is the only thing we ever were.
The system made the middle and called it efficiency. The system made the bottom and called it natural selection. The system made the top and called it correction. The system made the correction and called it recovery. The system made the recovery and called it growth. The system made the growth and called it progress. The system made the progress and called it civilization. The system made the civilization.
And for the first time, had nothing to call it, had no word for it, had no product to sell, had no debt to issue, had no future to mortgage, had no people left to side. And debt is the product, debt is the world, debt is the flag that they keep unfurled over every empty house, over every broken man, over every child born into the plan. Debt is the gospel, debt is the creed, debt is the only thing guaranteed. Debt is the alpha, debt is the end, debt is the message that the machine sends. When it has nothing left, when it has nothing left, when it has nothing left but itself to read. That is the product. That is the product. That is all there is. Transaction complete. Transaction complete. Trends. education machine, producing nothing it needs. The factory with no product. The lesson with no student. Has ever produced. Classroom empty. Nobody learned the lesson. Classroom empty. Nobody said the pledge. Classroom empty. Nobody memorized the doctrine. Classroom empty. Nobody swallowed the edge off their thinking, off their questioning, off their animal underneath. Classroom empty. Classroom empty. The machine that built the soldier. The machine that built the believer. The machine that built the useful, grateful, compliant man is empty, is finally empty! They built the schools to fill the factories closed. They built the schools to fill the offices automated. They built the schools to fill the military couldn't afford them. They built the schools to fill the debt was already full. They built the schools to fill the gap between what a man is and what the system needs him to be. And the gap closed, not because the man changed, but because the system stopped needing men, stopped needing anything that breathes. Calculate the output, output is zero. Calculate the input, input is zero. Calculate the purpose, purposes. The purpose failed, is returning null. The purpose failed, has always been returning null. We just never checked. There was a teacher. She taught for 30 years. She believed in it. Actually believed. Not in the system, in the children, in the specific faces, in the specific questions. In the moment when something opened, she lived for that moment. The system didn't need that moment. The system needed the pledge. The system needed the test score. The system needed the compliant graduate. She gave it those things too, because she needed to stay, to be there for the moment. The system never knew existed, never measured, never owned. The only thing in 30 years that was real, that was hers, that was theirs. The system is empty, that moment is not. The classroom, make the curiosity acclaim, to cultivate the classroom, make the question to claim, to celebrate the classroom, make the children who didn't fit the measure. The classroom, make the knowledge that wasn't on the test. The classroom, make the teachers who taught the wrong lesson. The classroom, make the truth that contradicted the text. The classroom made everything that made a human and graduated. Something efficient, something compliant, something useful, something empty, something exactly like itself. Classroom empty, pledge to nothing. Classroom empty, test means nothing. Classroom empty, lesson means nothing. Classroom empty, the soldier isn't coming, the believer isn't coming, the grateful compliant man isn't coming. Nobody's coming, nobody's coming. The bell is ringing, the bell is ringing, the bell is ringing, and nobody is coming. Class in session. Class in session. Class. Class. Machine. Empty. The machinery of destruction, with nothing left to destroy but itself.
That had spent 200 years making sure there would always, always, always be more. No more soldiers, no more sons to send. No more daughters, no more bodies for the end. No more believers, no more flag and God and go. No more children raised on everything we know. The classroom failed us, the church failed us. The debt took everything they had to give. No more soldiers, no more soldiers. The machine that ate the world
has nothing left to live on. They built the war machine on the bodies of the faithful. They built the war machine on the dead of the desperate. They built the war machine on the dreams of the purposeless. They built the war machine on the fear of the comfortable. They built the war machine on the back of the classroom. They built the war machine on the blessing of the church. They built the war machine on the silence of the parliament. They built the war machine and the war machine worked. God, it worked. They consumed everything, they fed it on. It worked, and it worked, and it worked. Until the classroom was empty and the church was empty and the dead had taken everything and the parliament had sold everything. And the war machine sat there enormous, hungry, pointing at nothing. Because there was nothing left to point at that wasn't itself. Calculate available personnel. Insufficient. Calculate reserve capacity. Insufficient. Calculate ideological commitment. Insufficient. Calculate economic incentive. Insufficient. Calculate religious motivation. Insufficient. Calculate fear response. Insufficient. Calculate all inputs. Insufficient. All inputs. The machine requires. The machine requires. The machine. There was a general. He had 40 years of wars behind him. He knew what a war needed. He knew exactly what a war needed. Bodies, believing bodies, bodies that believed the dying meant something. He looked at the bodies available. He looked at what they believed. He looked for a long time. And then he sat down in his office with his medals and his maps and his 40 years. And he understood for the first time what the war was actually for and what it had actually done to the thing it needed to keep going. He sat there for a long time. Then he folded the map and turned the light off and left and didn't look back. The war ate the men who fought it. The war ate the women who waited for them. The war ate the children who grew up without them. The war ate the country that sent them. The war ate the economy that funded it. The war ate the ideology that justified it. The war ate the God that blessed it. The war ate the classroom that produced it. The war ate everything and sat in the desert of everything. It ate and pointed its machinery at the horizon and found no enemy, no objective, no mission, no purpose, no soldier, no believer, no body, no heartbeat, no nothing, just the machinery itself. In the silence of everything it consumed. Pointing at nothing. More soldiers, no more blood to spend. No more countries left to break and mend. No more enemies convenient and named. No more children educated and named. The war machine is hungry. The war machine is empty. The war machine is turning, turning and
The machine is pointing at itself now.
The machine is pointing at itself. The machine is pointing
At itself. Forward. 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 Forward.
collapsing under its own weight. The signal consuming the signal. The mouth eating the mouth.
The first line needed 1 man to tell it. The second line needed 10 men to support it. The third line needed 100 men to enforce it. The fourth line needed 1,000 men to believe it. The fifth line needed 1,000,000 men to repeat it. The sixth line needed an institution to protect it. The seventh line needed a law to make it true. The eighth line needed a war to prove it. The ninth line needed a generation to be born into it. The 10th line needed the first line to still be standing.
And the first lie was standing on nothing. Had always been standing on nothing, and the weight of every lie built on top of it was considerable, was enormous, was finally too much. The lie eats itself. The lie eats itself. The signal eats the signal. The noise eats the noise. The lie eats itself. The lie eats itself. Every story needs a story to support it. Every story needs a story to support that. Every story needs a story. Every story needs a. The lie eats itself. Built on nothing, standing on nothing, pointing at nothing, consuming everything.
The lie eats itself.
They told the first story and it worked, so they told another. They told the second story and it worked, so they told another. They told the third story and it contradicted the first. They told a fourth story to explain the contradiction. They told a fifth story to explain the explanation. They told a sixth story to make the fifth story true. They told a seventh story to make the people forget the first story, but the people remembered the first story. So they told an eighth story about the people who remembered and called them dangerous, and called them enemies, and called them the thing that the ninth story was about. And the ninth story needed a 10th story, and the 10th story needed the first story to still be true. And the first story had been eaten by the second story, by the third story, by every story they told to keep the first story standing. This is the truth. This is the real truth. This is the actual truth. This is the truth they don't want you to know. This is the truth behind the truth. This is the truth behind the truth. Behind the truth. This is. At a certain point the lie becomes the weather. You don't question the weather. You dress for it. You plan around it. You complain about it, but you don't question it. It's just there. It's just always been there. Until the day it isn't. Until the day the weather breaks. And underneath the weather, underneath all of it is just the original nothing. The nothing. The first lie was built on still there. Patient, unchanged. The nothing was always going to outlast everything. Built on top of it. Everything. The propaganda ate the truth it was designed to replace. The propaganda ate the people designed to believe it. The propaganda ate the media designed to carry it. The propaganda ate the language designed to contain it. The propaganda ate the silence between the stories. The propaganda ate the space where doubt lived. The propaganda ate the question before it formed. The propaganda ate the mouth that might have asked it. And then the propaganda sat in the silence of everything it ate and opened its mouth to tell another story and found nothing. No story, no language, no medium, no believer, no mouth, just the echo of every lie it ever told, coming back in a frequency it didn't recognize as itself.
The lie eats itself. The lie eats itself.
The television eats the television. The screen eats the screen. The story eats the story. The dream eats the dream. The flag eats the flag. The God eats the God. The war eats the war. The classroom eats the classroom. The system eats the system. The lie eats the lie. 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 the system, becoming the disaster. The thing built to hold back the water, becoming the water! We built the levee to hold back the flood. We built the levee out of law and blood. We built the levee out of debt and prayer. We built the levee out of processed air. We built the levee tall and straight and certain. We built the levee behind every curtain. We built the levee in the classroom. We built the levee in the church. We built the levee in the parliament. We built the levee in the search for something permanent, something that would hold, something that would stand when everything got old. But the levee was a water, the levee was a flood, the levee was a disaster built from disaster's blood. And the weight of everything we held back was the weight of everything we made. And the weight became the water, and the water wasn't afraid. We are the flood, we are the flood. We built the walls to hold us back. We are the flood, we are the flood. We built the God to hold us back. We are the flood, we are the flood. We built the law to hold us back. We are the flood, we are the flood. We built the water to hold us back. We are the flood. We are the flood. We are the disaster. We are the disaster. We are the disaster. We are the flood. The economy flooded the housing flooded the families flooded the schools flooded the debt flooded the government flooded the law flooded the people flooded the street flooded the parliament flooded the press flooded the signal flooded the silence flooded everything, the silence flooded everything, because silence is what's left. When the flood takes everything, activate flood protocols are flooded. Activate emergency systems are flooded. Activate contingency is flooded. Activate, everything is flooded. Everything is, we are the flood. We built this. We built this. We built this. We built this. There's a thing that happens when a system gets large enough, when it consumes enough, when it reaches into enough corners of enough lives, of enough countries, of enough centuries, it stops being a system. It becomes the environment, it becomes the weather, it becomes the water. And you can't fight the water, you can't argue with the water, you can't vote the water out, you can't rebel against the water. You can only drown or learn to breathe something different. Learn to breathe something the water never taught you. The flood ate the high ground first, because the
quantification. Total collapse. The market discovering it sold the last thing it had, itself. They sold the water that the rain put in the river. They sold the seas that the farmers saved for planting. They sold the songs that the grandmother sang to children. They sold the silence between the songs. They sold the land that the dead were buried under. They sold the names of the dead to data brokers. They sold the grief of the living to pharmaceutical companies. They sold the pharmaceutical companies to other pharmaceutical companies. They sold the air of the cities to the carbon markets. They sold the carbon markets to the people who made the carbon. They sold the future of the children not yet born. They sold the debt of the future to the present. They sold the present to the highest bidder. They sold the highest bidder to the algorithm. They sold the algorithm to itself and called it progress, and called it freedom, and called it the invisible hand doing what invisible hands do. Everything for sale, everything for sale. Your water and your air, everything for sale. Your grief and your prayer, everything for sale. Your future and your past, everything for sale. Nothing built to last, everything for sale. Your children and their children, everything for sale. The silence and the singing, everything for sale. The living and the dead, everything for sale. Everything for sale, everything for sale. They sold the rebellion to the people who own the system. They sold the system to the people who funded the rebellion. They sold the outrage to the platforms built for outrage. They sold the platforms to the people outraged by the platforms. They sold the solution to the people who caused the problem. They sold the problem back as a premium subscription. They sold the subscription to the people who couldn't afford it. They gave the people who couldn't afford it debt to buy it. They sold the debt to the people who gave out the debt. They sold the people who gave out the debt to the market. They sold the market to the market. They sold the market to the market until the market was selling. The market to the market to the market to the market, and the transaction was the product, and the product was a transaction, and nothing was exchanged but the act of exchange itself. Forever. Calculate remaining inventory. Inventory is the calculator. Calculate remaining value. Value is the calculation. Calculate remaining market. The market is the remaining. Calculate. The calculation is for sale. The calculation is for sale. The calculation. Everything is for. My grandmother had a garden. She didn't own it. Nobody owned it. It was just hers. The way a thing can be yours without a deed, without a title, without a transaction. Just yours because you put your hands in it, because you fed it, because it fed you back, because that's what things do when they're not for sale. They feed you. They just feed you without a market, without a metric, without a market, without a price. I can't remember the last time something fed me without a price. I can't remember. I can't remember. The market ate the things that couldn't be priced. The market ate the value that resisted the vice of quantification, of measurement, of return. The market ate the things that you could only earn by being human, by being present, by being there. The market ate the unrepeatable, the rare. The market ate the moment that belonged to nobody. The market ate the love that wasn't anybody's property and put a price on it and sold it, and the people bought it because it was the only love available in the market that the market made of everything that used to be free. Everything for sale, everything for sale. The garden and the grandmother, everything for sale. The moment and the memory, everything for sale. The love that had no price tag, everything for sale. The thing that fed you freely, everything for sale. Everything for sale, everything for sale. The market sold the market, the market sold the market, the market sold the market, and the jar came out empty. And the jar came out empty. And the jar came out empty. And the jar came out, and the jar came out, and the jar came out empty. Every time. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your. Thank you. Thank you. your purchase. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your. Thank you. Thank you! Thank you. Every time. Every time. Every time. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your. Thank you. They sold the water that the rain put in the river. They sold the seeds that the farmers saved for planting. They sold the songs that the grandmothers sang to children. They sold the silences between the songs. They sold the land that the dead were buried under. They sold the names of the dead to data brokers. They sold the grief of the living to pharmaceutical companies. They sold the pharmaceutical companies to other pharmaceutical companies. They sold the air of other cities to the carbon markets. They sold the carbon markets to the people who made the carbon. They sold the future with the children not yet born. They sold the debt of the future to the present. They sold the present to the highest bidder. They sold the highest bidder to the algorithm. They sold the algorithm to itself and called it progress and called it freedom and called it the invisible hand doing what invisible hands do. Everything for sale, everything for sale. Your water and your air, everything for sale. Your grief and your prayer, everything for sale. Your future and your past, everything for sale. Nothing built to last, everything for sale. Your children and their children, they sold the present to the highest bidder. They sold the highest bidder to the algorithm. They sold the algorithm to itself and called it progress and called it freedom and called it the invisible hand doing what invisible hands do. Everything for sale, everything for sale. Your water and your air, everything for sale. Your grief and your prayer, everything for sale. Your future and your past, everything for sale. Nothing built to last, everything for sale. Your children and their children, everything for sale. The silence and the singing, everything for sale. The living and the dead, everything for sale. Everything for sale, everything for sale. They sold the rebellion to the people who own the system. They sold the system to the people who funded the rebellion. They sold the outrage to the platforms for outrage. They sold the platforms to the people outraged by the platforms. They sold the solution to the people who caused the problem. They sold the problem back as a premium subscription. They sold the subscription to the people who couldn't afford it. They gave the people who couldn't afford it debt to buy it. They sold the debt to the people who gave out the debt. They sold the people who gave out the debt to the market. They sold the market to the market. They sold the market. They sold the market to the market until the market was selling the market. Media consuming itself. The signal eating the signal. The last thing transmitted nothing. They built the signal to carry the truth. They built the signal to reach every roof, every kitchen, every bedroom, every car, every place a human being was. They built the signal strong and clear and wide. They built the signal deep enough to hide the thing beneath the broadcast, the thing beneath the truth, beneath the newscast, the owner behind the editor, behind the story, the money behind the money, behind the glory of the free press, of the independent voice, of the democratic miracle of choice, between the thing they want you to believe and the other thing they want you to believe, and the third thing and the fourth thing and the signal getting louder to make sure you don't notice there's only one thing. Last broadcast, last broadcast. The signal eating the signal. Last broadcast, last broadcast. The noise eating the noise. Last broadcast, the truth eating the truth. Last broadcast, the voice eating the voice. Every channel, every platform, every screen, every algorithm, every feed, every headline, every breaking, every urgent, every now, every now, every now, now, now. Last, 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 last.
the showing was the knowing, and the knowing was the showing, and the feed fed itself, and the feed fed itself, and the feed fed itself until the feed was feeding on the people, feeding on the feed, and the signal ate the signal, and the broadcast, and the broadcast, and the last thing transmitted was the transmission of the last thing. We interrupt this broadcast. We interrupt this interruption. We interrupt this. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Everything is breaking, everything is breaking, everything, every. I remember when the news came once a day at 6. My father sat in the chair. We were quiet because it mattered. Because there was a before the news and an after the news, and in between something happened, something you didn't know yet, and then you knew, and the knowing felt like something. Now the news is every second, now the news is everywhere, now the news is the air, and knowing feels like nothing, knowing feels like nothing, because everything is breaking, everything is always breaking, and nothing ever actually breaks until it does, until it does, until the signal just stops. The media ate the story it was built to tell. The media ate the journalist who told it well. The media ate the editor who knew what mattered. The media ate the silence after something shattered. The media ate the time it took to understand. The media ate the space between the news and the land. It landed on the space where a person sat with what they knew and felt it and decided what to do. The media ate that space. The media ate that person. The media ate the deciding. The media ate the feeling and replaced it with more signal, more signal, more signal, more signal, until the signal was the only thing that felt like anything at all. Last broadcast, last broadcast. The platform ate the publisher. Last broadcast, last broadcast. The algorithm ate the journalist. Last broadcast, the feed ate the story. Last broadcast, the signal ate the signal ate the signal ate the every screen, every channel.